And now we come to our first panel, and I am going to hand you over to Dario Talmesio. And Dario is Research Director, Service Provider Strategies and Regulation, and 5G Accelerator at Omdia. And I'm going to leave him to introduce you to the panel. So thank you very much and welcome to you all.
Annie, good morning, afternoon to everybody, and thank you for passing it on to me. So we have a panel discussion now, which is slightly provocative. Thank you, Annie, for the title. Does the converged service model really work? And obviously, talking about this topic, we have three experts in the sector. The first one is Jesús Villacorta. Jesús is leading the strategy and business development and transformation at Orange, Spain. Obviously, we have Yogesh Malik, CTIO of Tele2. And then we have a change in the program. Joanna is unfortunately unable to join us today. We all wish her a speedy recovery. Joanna caught COVID, unfortunately, still is around. But Joanna's colleague, Christian Hoffman, Managing Director and Industry Lead for Communication and Media, has been kind enough to replace her at a very short notice. So thank you very much for stepping in, Christian. And hopefully when Joanna is listening to the recorded version of this, she'll be fully recovered. So best wishes to Joanna. But without further ado, I would like, starting from Jesús and then Yogesh and then Christian, to briefly introduce themselves and maybe describe a little bit how their role fits into the converged service model story. Jesús, stage is yours. The virtual stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Dario. Pleasure to be here. Not sure if you guys are able to see me, but I'm here.
Not yet, but we hear you well.
Okay, apparently I have some sort of an issue with the camera. Anyways, Jesús Villacorta, Strategy Director in Spain. I happen to work in the intersection between Spain, which is the most convergent market in Europe, with over 12 million convergent customers in Spain, and Orange, which is the most convergent European telco in Europe, with over 11 million convergent customers. And in this intersection here in Orange, Spain, we have ourselves 3.5 million convergent customers. So I would say that we are one of those players that like convergence and see really the value of playing convergence in the market.
Thank you, Jesús. Yogesh.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Super. So Yogesh Malik with Tele2, CTIO. What does that really mean? It's to enable connectivity in a sustainable while embracing diversity. So that's who I am. I've worked in different groups before, Telenor being one of them, Vion being one of them, earlier a group TRW, which became Vodafone, actually, those operations. So yeah, I've been a little bit around and I'm here to learn, because convergence is beyond quantity. I am into quality. So that's where I'm here, and I hope we can contribute.
Thank you, Yogesh. Christine.
Hello, welcome. I have a completely different background than the two other panelists here. I come from a consulting background, and I'm working as an industry captain at Accenture, looking over all our German-speaking business for telcos and media companies. And convergence is, of course, one of the big words we have always done consulting around. I'm really happy to be here and get also the other voices in the room. I will give insights into some of the work we're doing and present my perspective here.
Thank you. very much. So let's start with the discussion. And before I do that, obviously we have a Q&A function here. I will try and monitor the Q&A from the audience, but in the meantime, we start the discussion. If anybody wants to jump in with a question, I'll try and keep an eye on it and ask it on your behalf. But let's start. So first, convergence is not really a new topic in the industry. I think probably echoing what Jesús said is they are already fully converged. But one thing I think it's quite interesting to talk about first, or to set the scene, is when we talk about convergence, you ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers in terms of what is convergence. So maybe just to clarify what we are talking about, and maybe starting from Yogesh. Yogesh, what is convergence to your organization? When you talk about convergence, what do you actually mean?
Yeah, no, thank you. You know, COVID, and I'm really sorry for the people who are recovering, and I really hope speedy recovery, but COVID has put an absolutely new dimension to connectivity. Home has become a workplace, a place for family, place for private businesses, and connectivity needs to be as resilient as water and electricity, if not even more in some geographies. So I think that dimension has made connectivity to become, and we call that in Tele2, essential utility. It's like water, electricity, and more. And that means that if I have mobile and my family has mobile subscriptions, if I have fixed, if I have entertainment, how can I not be perturbed as a customer, my wife, my kids, not be perturbed as customers, and I can do most of the things digital first online. So I think it is ease of use, it is one-stop shop, it is connectivity always on, anytime, anywhere, and it is access which goes with high speed and low latencies, no matter where you are. So I think that is in a nutshell, if I can describe.
Thank you, Yogesh. And Jesús, from your point of view, when you talk about convergence within your organization, what is it? And by the way, Yogesh, if I can summarize yours, it seems that you are taking a view from a connectivity-centric upward in convergence. What's in Orange Spain or in Jesús' experience so far?
Well, for us, is most of all about value proposition. Convergence means, in a broad sense, an aggregation of services into a single value proposition. For B2C, this means aggregation of fixed, mobile, TV, other services for the home. For B2B customers, it means communications plus digital services plus IT. And even beyond value proposition, I would say that convergence is also a shift in the way that the players compete in the market. Look at telcos. A convergent telco does not play on mobile and fixed anymore. You play in a different way with households and businesses, not lines anymore. And this is a different way to compete, which is richer and way more relevant.
Okay, and so sounds like kind of more customer-centric or service-centric type of view. And Christian, in your various projects with telco and media operators, what's your view?
Yeah, I think I can tick mark what Yogesh and Jesús said, maybe giving it a little bit of a flavor. So I think the most requests we're working on is the question, where is the value in convergence? Because the topic is overhyped or was overhyped. I can remember still 10 years ago when Deutsche Telekom tried to launch a device which was called T1. They ordered thousands of DECT and mobile integrated devices, which nobody wanted to have. And I think that's a good example of asking ourselves, what does the client really want? So, and there I'm in the value dimension, always thinking about, is the proposition that a telco comes up really generating any benefit for the customer? So is it really a better usability? Is it really another use case, or do we more or less do it because we want to reduce churn, which of course is an economic reason to do it? Absolutely. So, but bottom line, I would say on the B2C side, the convergence we see is quite limited outside of the bundling that we see in the market. We have, of course, some good examples of things like hybrid routers. That is probably the most dominant one. We have now fixed wireless access in some geographies coming up on the 5G frequencies, which will be really a convergent offering. And convergence in products in B2C is then all the, let's say, mobile broadband that replaces a fixed line. That's really on the product side. On B2B, I would see it a little bit more differentiated, because there we see a lot of the value discussions end very soon. Why is that? Because still the large enterprises, they buy in silos, so that the telco can also sell in silos. You would not find one buyer at a large enterprise who tells the telco, please come with a proposal for everything converged. They still ask, give me mobile contract, give me a leased line, give me SD-WAN. But what happens here is rather on the SMB side, that we see the tendency of a better servicing of the SMB going into marketplaces where we would have real convergence of IT products, SaaS products, connectivity products per se.
Thank you, Christian. And to go back into the original title, does convergence work? Jesus, maybe I'll start from you, because you described yourself as one of the most converged operators in Europe. So does it work, and who does it work for? Because I want to be slightly provocative here, but when we think about convergence, I think Christian mentioned, it's a discussion we've been having for the past 10 years. And often, if I can be reductive here, we look at convergence as an aggregation of services which come with a discount and have some level of stickiness. Is that it, or is there anything more to convergence?
Well, like many things in life, Dario, you can always look at the glass half full or half empty, right? Many analysts think about convergence as a discount game. We like to think about convergence in a very different way, at least in Orange. We believe that it's a win-win. It's a win for customers because for them it's convenience, it's one-stop shop, it's one-stop serve. And the best proof of that is that the customers churn less, which means that they like it. The churn of a convergent customer is 1/3 lower than the churn of a non-convergent customer, and this is a big difference. So this means that they like it, and also for us it's a win. It is an opportunity to increase your share of wallet in the customers that you have already, and it's also an opportunity to win new customers that come with everything if you do things right. For instance, for us, Orange Spain. Before convergence penetration in Spain, we were a number 3 player with very little fixed assets. After all the convergence explosion, we are a solid number 2 with very strong fixed assets that cover more than 60% of the Spanish households with fiber to the home. So, it's also an opportunity for players to make a significant step into their markets if they embrace convergence nicely.
And maybe if I move to another operator, Yogesh, going back to the original question, does it work? Does it work for your customers? Does it work for your company? And I think Jesus mentioned a third of the churn level of converged customer is a third of the one of non-converged customers. Well, what's in your experience?
This is a very, very intriguing question and pretty deep question. Does it work? For who? I think we should start with the customer. Churn metric, yes, 25%, 30% lower, tick mark. ASPU or average service per user metric, tick mark, 15, 20% higher. Call to call centers, maybe a little bit more. So yes, maybe from that general level, you can say good trend. Ease of use, and that real test comes, can you come out of a converged operator? Can you unsubscribe very fast? Because honestly, we have to be honest to ourselves as well, that road into convergence, sometimes customers also feel, especially B2C, that they are tied in. There is no way out. And they are just living there because of connectivity and discount. Got to think a little bit more than that. And I'll explain you what we do in Tele2. When it comes to integrator or B2B enterprise business, we see there is more and more request of fully not only providing connectivity, but providing deep. We design our own Wi-Fi routers. So how do we provide full end-to-end integrator experience to big companies, Swedavia, Scania, Volvo Trucks, etc.? So I think these are two different cases. And the way we are testing ourselves is go back to the customer processes, journey again and again, and test them. And the biggest test we are doing is unsubscribe, freedom to unsubscribe. And I think with that, you become more reliable. And we have actually defined new values for us. There are 3 values which define Tele2 amongst the whole. Our brand is unlimited together, and the 3 values are reliability. So it needs to be reliable. Convergence is reliable, tick mark. Go to the next, insight driven. We cannot capture B2C customer. We need to go to the household level, as Jose mentioned, extremely important. Number 3 is collaborative, that we need to collaborate with our enterprise segment. So I think it works, but the depth of easiness is a test for us, which improves every single day. And for us, customer first and digital first is the way we are thinking. I hope that gives you a context on how we think.
It does, and it actually opens up a new dimension, which I know I was talking with Christian earlier on. Christian, data. So we talk about convergence as if it was, an amalgamation of services very often. But sometimes in the industry, we forget that convergence probably should start from the data discussion. What's your experience so far, and where do you think it should go?
The data discussion, you mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, reflecting also on what Yogesh said, because I like it a lot. So in my point of view, the convergence worked exactly where Jesús said it worked. It's kind of reducing churn. It usually gives a better experience for the customers. But we see in several markets that there's this one trend of convergence, people liking to have a bundled product, maybe even for the family, and the father can control the router in a way, so to control the house. So all nice, but we have the same trend on the other side. And the Kongstar in Germany is a good example. They have a proposition today that is completely anti-bundling. So it's about the freedom, yeah. And they made huge progress as a no-frills mobile brand in the beginning. Now also offering fixed line products with this proposition of freedom, yeah. So you see there's also a counter development of people who don't really want to be part of a family contract, to make an extreme example. But playing this through, it means the end game somewhere is probably a 50-50 or 60-40 split of converged customers and the freedom customers. So if we take a look at the converged customer, which potentially sit then with one of the larger and investment savvy incumbents, which have the right investment in the platform as well, what you need to achieve is this customer experience that still makes you stick. Because if you are bound to an operator, you want to be happy. And the happiness comes from the data availability. I make a simple example. Yeah? If my operator, and I'm converged, contacts me via mail with insignificant messages, yeah, unpersonalized promotions, even requests that don't reflect the truth on my accounts, I get annoyed quite quickly. And then I look for this unsubscribe button Yogesh was alluding so nicely to. So, and this database is there. Also in one of the prior sessions here, it was mentioned that the data is there, it's just not utilized. And if you then look on to what are the big players doing in the market that are rather on the application side, Facebook and the likes, they're exploiting the data in a meaningful way. So my view is on the converged operator side, there needs to be a step up, even going to the distinction to be a resale channel online for insurance contracts, for smart home products, for whatever you can come up with. But you need to have the data in place. You need to be fully personalized. You need to be able to intake also data from external sources and enrich your knowledge about the customer. And that's where I unfortunately don't see a lot of telcos excel. It's only a few small operators, potentially also some of the Indian ones that do a much better job, but at least in the German-speaking area, there's no good examples.
Okay, and on that point, it sounds like an open question to the two telecom operators. How do you converge your essentially your customer data, and how do you better utilize that? It sounds from Christian that the big telecom operators, which probably include both of you, are not quite ready yet. Where do you think you are at the moment, and especially where do you want to go?
Jesús, please, yourself.
Let me contribute here with my view. You know, there are always phases. If I go back to early stages of convergence in Spain, you know, we and also the other players around, we were very much you know, hurry up to put the fixed and the mobile together, and then the name of the game was mostly about commercial campaigns to cross-sell, and you know, this is, you know, this is there is not a lot of intelligence there. It's, you know, it's something that you want to do at the very beginning, and it's in a way it's another excuse to run, you know, commercial campaigns, because you have to hurry up and get those customers convergent. But this is something that happens on the early stages. When you know, go up the curve and you have actually most of the base converged and the market is mostly converged, you really need a totally different approach, which is very much based in data. You know, it's not about you know, excuses to run commercial campaigns on mobile cross-sell or TV. It's about you know, understanding the customer, understanding making good guesses of what they need in the household if they don't get it yet, and then run you know, commercial campaigns which are very much driven by this intelligence. And this is a different story. And actually the results of those campaigns is much different. You know, when you know, just make cold campaigns, carpet bombing, whereas you do commercial campaigns which are very much based on data intelligence, the effectiveness of this improves by 50%, which is a lot by the end of the day. So it's a different game. It's a different game on the way that you approach your customers, and also the way that you run the business as a whole. The marketing function is not fixed marketing, mobile marketing anymore. It's marketing, period. Convergent marketing. Same with customer experience. No customer experience for fixed and mobile. It's customer experience for convergence, period. Same for the commercial team. So it's you know, it very much depends on where you really are in the penetration curve of convergence.
So probably going back into Christian's comment, maybe you are at a different stage of maturity compared to the German operators. It's probably that makes the difference. But Yogesh, if you are the CTIO of your organization, so first thing that comes to mind to me is that we've converged the T and the I. That's an important step toward convergence. But what else needs to happen in your either telecom or IT stack to facilitate convergence? Or what have you been doing to facilitate convergence?
It's very much the way Christian mentioned. There are some operators which have managed very well, and there are others on a journey, and we are the ones on a journey. But I can tell you what we are doing and the way we are thinking. So data and analytics is an integral part of our decision making. But then we at Tele2 really thought hard that we want values which every individual, and we are operating in Baltics, in Sweden. Sweden has one of the highest fiber penetrations. You can say even overbuilt to a certain extent, unbundled, sustainable, green economy. But the thing which we see is without a value like insight driven, we end up in a very gut feel discussion. So now what we are doing is we are going with the insights, customer data and network data, experience from a customer self-care to troubleshooting. An agent, how does the agent answer when the call comes in? How can we localize so that when a customer calls, it's a precious call, and that call needs to be answered and converged. Customers have higher demands. They have higher demands, and the more granular we can become, and we see that we have the data. It's not like we don't have the data, and we respect full GDPR and the local PTS guidelines as well. But what we do is make sure that we can turn that into combined insights and approach them. So I think that's the way we are doing, and what we see helps troubleshooting faster. Either it is by self-care or through an agent, helps actually upselling, because if you're happy, and I really liked, happy customers will never leave. Forced customers will get annoyed and once will, if not leave, at least give a negative NPS and soon will leave. So I think so we are growing from a general to personalization, and because we are having legacy, because we were fixed operator, mobile operator mergers, TDC merger in the past as well, we have to take all that legacy with us so that we can gain combined insights. So Dario, that's the way we are doing. And we see with every customer experience, we learn 1 inch more. And the target state for us is to become extremely insight driven, that we have conversations, geography, areas, customer, self-support, help.
There are a few dimensions to that, but before we get into data-driven organizations, I want to take a question from the audience, which has a very long statement before the question. So I'll read out the statement and then the question. So traditionally, Telco build connectivity pipe and touch minimally on data information flow in the pipe. So the Telco to Techco shift needs customer management, enterprise data privacy, confidentiality, and so on and so forth at a much deeper level. So the question is, what is the current best practice in the Telco to Techco world, if we have one? And how ready or not ready is the industry on this transition? Christian, earlier on we were talking about the amount of legacy that is really making big telcos really, may I say, slow in this transition, and we were even debating, should they even consider it at some point or move away from the legacy in different ways? So a couple of questions for you. Do you see out there a North Star in the Telco to Techco transition? And is the industry ready? Will it ever get ready, in fact, the telco industry?
So it's quite a coincidence that the CEO of Swisscom was presenting in the beginning here. I think that's when you look for a North Star, it's quite amazing what they have achieved. And we were part of the journey in the omnichannel platform that he mentioned out there. I think that why was there a sweet spot for an incumbent operator? Because the full convergence, if you would really mean it, it goes so deep into the stacks. It's an investment that you will never be able to amortize. So you need to play it smart. Yeah? So either you do it just for the customer and you have a lot of workarounds and a good databases so that you can serve the customer even though the legacy stacks are not converged. I think that's one of the ideas. And the sweet spot is the decoupling of the northbound layers, so the digital journeys, where you can more or less let the legacy stacks sleep as long as they sleep, speed up the front ends, digital front ends, the customer related data pools and so on to enable the journeys. And then when you have anyway things to do in the technology side, like 5G upgrades, you can then bit by bit also replace things underneath. Yeah, but if you try to transform everything in one go, usually you will not swallow that big investment thing, and it will just not pay off. I mean, I think that's a little bit of the grain of salt, that when you talk transformation, most people try to do it too big, and then you don't have the people, not the skills, not the investment. It takes 5 years, and then during the 5 years, your investors will just shoot you down, and you don't want to do that as a CEO. And I think that's a little bit my takeaway. If you then look at the data portion of it, data is fortunately not as bound to the IT systems as one would think. So there's enough technologies to pull this out of the systems with some effort, but easier than we used to do it before. Let me give an example. I think for a customer agent front end, we have been developing that for ages, but it's now pretty simple, technically feasible, that the agent gets a dashboard with all the systems, all the products that the client and the client contracts are referring to in a mashup logic. So you're away from monolithic, look at your mobile product and mobile tickets and mobile assurance and fixed and IT and TV. But today's technology allows it at least more simple in a decoupled API fashion to pull this all up, to decouple from the legacy and give the agent what he needs to see. So if the agent gets a call, the call has been pre-qualified. So the system already knows that actually this guy has probably a fixed line fault. Immediately the data is presented around the fixed line access line and the services on top of it. And you have exactly the experience we are all talking about, without having integrated any of the systems. And that's my takeaway of how doing it smart without investing now millions and millions of IT stack conversions.
So less system integration, less replacement of legacy system. Let it sleep. Or let it sleep there.
Let it sleep in the sarcophag is what we say. Yeah, the sarcophagus, like Chernobyl. It's not a good city today, but let it sleep underneath something where you don't see it the pain anymore. Yes. Okay. The other observation we had is that often we talk about convergence in a consumer environment, or the convergence conversation tends to be dominated in A, fixed and mobile and media, and B, consumer environment. It seems that there are other kind of directions of convergence, which is was already mentioned a couple of times earlier on, which is the one of IT or online services for enterprises. And then we also mentioned throughout the day this morning already several times, and with you, marketplaces. So is the future of convergence from a service provider point of view going now into enterprise marketplaces, or is mainly still a bit of an ambition, and we leave those marketplaces to others? And by others, I think I don't need to mention, but I'll mention it. I'm thinking about the hyperscale operators.
I think it's a very interesting question. And coming back, what we were discussing, and Christian mentioned very well, this is the way to go. I think to have a 5 years transformation program, it tires the culture. It tires the culture. I think the way, at least in my humble opinion, the way we are doing is, number one, there are very good AI and ML experts today. Very, very good. And machine can do just so much. So get those skills and nurture those skills is one area we are doing. Second is decoupling, we call the IT core and the online and channels. Because by doing that, you can become more modular if you have a multi-brand strategy still to the front and fully omni-channel. So I just want to pick up on that. It's extremely right, it resonates to me at least, and we are on that, and we see it gives everyone in the value chain a space to contribute and grow together. So I just wanted to highlight that, Dario. It's the way we are thinking. Hyperscalers, and this is our value of collaborative. I mean, I think marketplace is great, but first we have to smoothly run and efficiently run, which means our basic services of connectivity, entertainment, and upsell services, personalization should work frictionless and seamless across our customers. I think marketplaces, we are trying with enterprise now, because that is the area we see Volvo Trucks with private networks, Foodora with the dispatch of food in autonomous way. That is the way we are thinking about how do we collaborate, because we have relationship with the hyperscaler. How do we collaborate, yet we are API first, online first, and customer first. So that's at least my point of view on it.
Okay,
Yeah, to your question, if I may put one example on the table, which I found very interesting, the European funds, there will be a very important amount to be distributed to support the Spanish SMEs to improve their competitiveness by digitalizing their businesses. And those funds will be subsidizing converged services, not the communications by themselves, but rather a suite of convergent services. The Spanish government has established some sort of predefined convergent offer, which covers the most basic needs of SMEs to digitalize their businesses, including tools to improve their web presence, means to do payment or payment solutions, solutions to move processing to the cloud, cybersecurity, among others. No, there's a suite of convergent services, and the funds will be given to the SMEs, and the SMEs to the providers that are able to provide those convergent services. Only if you are a qualified provider of this convergent suite, you are able to receive those funds. So in a way, you are either convergent or you are off the game. Yeah. So it's super relevant game also in the B2B space for sure.
And obviously,
I agree totally.
Obviously, the direction of Orange and service providers is the one to create a suite of services that go beyond connectivity for SME, or not only SME, probably the whole enterprise world. But when we get into this territory of IT services, then there is the natural question, and there is the natural kind of comparison when we look at the telco world and we look at the Amazons of this world, and we have the sense that our service providers kind of going to be ready to offer those enterprise services the same ways that potentially hyperscalers can, obviously. And Christian, I know we had been elaborating a little bit on that, and it seems that even some of the kind of so-called established enterprise services in a convergent fashion, such as SD-WAN, are not as simple as we think to provide from a tech operator. So, which kind of opens a much bigger question: is what is? Do we see a role there for service providers, or can we believe that they will continue to play a central role in that market segment?
So I think it's bifurcated. So I see operators which more or less have given up any struggle there and don't tell it, but they say we're the pipe, leave me alone, it's getting too complex. And they will probably be quite profitable, but they will sell more or less standalone connectivity services. And SD-WAN is at the border where they potentially even cannot sell a competitive SD-WAN solution anymore because they're not able to put all the solution elements in the SD-WAN machine. Example, SD-WAN expects real-time response and the dashboard capability. If you put this on top of a classic legacy stack, it just doesn't work, because to deploy DSL takes 5 days, right? So it's not real time. So that's the one type of operator. The other type of operator, usually those which have a little bit more leeway on the investment, they will of course now try to play a role in, let me call it, connected industry service play. So for example, I think that 5G will enable quite a couple of use cases for enterprises that drive digitization in a completely new way. Talking about manufacturing floor optimization and so on. So things that are highly vertical in nature. And if you're not an expert of the vertical industry, it's very hard to come up with a solution. But still, the solution is a converged offering between a connectivity solution, so based potentially a 5G campus solution that is more infrastructure related, but on the other hand, you need to have the capability to understand how to optimize the shop floor, and that is a very broad gap to bridge. And there's today a fight going on, and it will probably take the next 5 years to sort it out, whether and how the larger telcos can play a role and have a value stake in there. If they don't play it right, and right playing doesn't mean having all the value chain under control or being the value chain provider per se, but having the right ecosystem play in that, incentivizing the right players, being at the control points for the customer, that will be decisive. But it's developing now, and we will see in 5 years if there has been any value remaining at the telcos, or if they all go down, let's say, the bit pipe route. Yeah. And this is now again repeating in B2B as it has been repeating in B2C, and hopefully with a better outcomes.
Can I?
Yes,
Dario,
please.
can I comment? Yes. Thank you. I see the trends. We should not forget we came from connectivity. Connectivity is paramount, will be there. Absolutely. The higher you go, the more you converge. It depends on your IT architecture and your business processes and how close you are to the business. And I think that is the area where we're investing a lot of time to make sure that the decoupling, modernization, placement, identification, payment, retirement of services becomes very, very seamless. So I think it's the more we go deeper into enterprise, for example, Volvo Trucks, we will need to understand how Volvo Trucks really works. Without understanding, we will just provide connectivity. But what we see, the more time we spend, and we have an account team which designs the network on the site. And that makes a big difference. And the stickiness of that solution, 5 years, we are talking about support after 5 years. So it's amazingly interesting, but we will need to, as telcos, widen our horizons while being assuring the base functioning all the time.
Thank you. I've just noticed there were 3 long questions in the Q&A, but I don't think I have enough time, and Annie would probably confirm. And I see Annie's coming online, so she's probably going to cut me off now. But before she does that, I just want to say, Christian, Jesús, and Yogesh, thank you very much for your contribution today. Certainly a lot of food for thought and so many discussions to be continued.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.